Who doesn't want their rig to be able to do that? I'm going to show you how to do it. So what Scout has is what I would call, focus the camera, flex extensions, or flex blades, some people call them. Let me take this wheel off and I'll show you how they work. And then I'll show you how you can make your own for next to nothing. So, the rock lights are providing some wonderful lighting here. Oh, I'm sorry about the camera focusing. Okay, so you see here's the shock, and your normal shock travel goes that far. That will let you flex. Grab a stock one. Okay, there we go. So here is stock flex. You see we get to there till we get the wheel off the ground. Well, we saw the Gladiator. The Gladiator is much more than that. So it does it because that's all the suspension travel you get. But when the suspension hits the end of its travel, then it unlocks and it spins up. Okay? The shocks are mounted. We move them down from the stock mounting location down to the frame. That gets you closer so you can use up all of the suspension travel. And also, doing that lifts the truck. And if you don't like that riding around like a monster truck look, which also is kind of bad for side hilling and things, doing this gives you a drop. It lowers your truck. So let me take off. Oh, I got to turn this off or the servo is going to fight me. Where's the power switch? Okay, so turn this off. Turn this over here. And I will show you how you can make your own really simply. So if you moved your shocks down to the frame, that means your shock is now in place of one of the screws holding the ESC tray in. So you don't really need, well, I guess you'll have some extra screws. What I had screws left over from, oh, it's the front one, changing my diff cover. So I used those 4 screws as my extra screws because we're adding screws to the linkage if you're trying to do this, you know, on the really cheap side. So there's a screw that goes through it into the original suspension mount where this bottom screw would normally mount. And then there's this screw here. And this is all that we are trying to create. Okay, so there is a big hole and a little hole, and then there's this wing here. Those are the only parts of it. This wing on the top next to the big hole is what keeps it from over centering, because if you don't have enough of a tab up there, it'll flip over and then your truck gets stuck up like that and it's really awkward. I've had that happen many times, so I kept doing it again and again until we got this just right. So the easiest way to make this is with a piece of plastic. So the ones that I have here were made from a dishwasher, the side of an old dishwasher. Never throw away a dishwasher without cutting it apart because the plastic's all kinds of useful. This one came off of a recycling trailer lid, like a dumpster lid. I obtained it legally. I own the trailer. It had to come off the trailer. Do not go rip these off of someone else's trailer because you will be in trouble. You can do it with a utility knife. It's a whole lot easier with something like this. I have these shears. I don't know what they're called. They're just flat on the bottom and they have a big razor blade on top, and they will hurt your fingers if you get your fingers in there. Ask me how I know. You can do it. You can do it with this. It's just harder. What you need to do is make, let me straighten this cut first. And this stuff is not easy to cut, let me tell you. So we're going to cut that off straight. Then we need just a thin strip. And if you make it long enough, you'll be able to get all of your pieces out of the same one. I'm actually going to use mine to give me the same thickness. Push it up there, and we'll start at the back, then we'll walk it to the front. Make sure it's lining up so we don't end up with a big wedge. If it is, it's not a big deal. We can just keep trimming. Close enough. No, that is wedge shaped. Okay, we're gonna see what we get. Oh, get a hand workout on that one. So So that's tapered. That's great. Let me try this again. Here's an interesting way to do it. Just use your thumb and run it down it. And you could also use a ruler and mark it out and stuff. But I'm not that scientific. Just keep doing that till it feels right. Make sure you eat your Wheaties before you try and cut that. Whew. Okay. And we end up with this. So what I did on the first one, you're going to need to make a cut across like that, like a, I don't know what it is, like a 45-degree angle. Then you need 2 drill bits. Okay, so you can't really do this without these. You can do it without the shears and just use a knife, but you need these drill bits. This is a 3/64, and then this one is a 1/16 for the little hole and the big hole. Reason being, the big one, the one that it hinges off of, the hinge hole, needs to be big enough that it can rotate freely on the screw. And 1/16, don't ask what the metric size is, I don't even know. But 1/16 is the size that you need for a screw, an SCX-24 screw, to go through it and it to rotate freely. And then this screw, the 3/64, is small enough that the threads on the shock will bite into it and it won't move. But the ball in the shock will spin so it can go up and down. So this one it threads into, this one it just is a pass through. So to make it, you're going to make this shape as close as you can. Sorry if the focus keeps getting messed up. You're going to make this shape as close as you can. And then I just put the screw in a little bit, and I kept going and shaving some of this, and then I take it off and shave it and put it back on until I got it to where it would turn and it would stop just right. Like you want it to point up, like it's pointing up at the shock where you're mounting the shock so that it can't over center. So you get maximum movement, or if you want less movement, you can actually leave more of a horn on there so you only get halfway if you have too much flex going on, because mine, it drops so far that the front axle starts clicking. So I actually have too much travel on mine. So you'll have to fiddle with it. I'll give you the size and dimensions of mine. Oh, I guess we're doing metric in this one. Okay, so the thing is 4.5 millimeters thick. Is that right? Yeah, or 4.8, depending on how you measure it. To the end of the long thing, the longest part of it, I have 18.6 millimeters. And to the end of the short side, I have 14.8 millimeters. So that'll give you an idea of how long this needs to be, how this shortness needs to be. If you were really good at math, you could figure out the angle that I have here. I don't. And then from the hole to the end of the wing, or whatever we're going to call it, is 6.1 millimeters. That's just what mine worked out to. They don't all have to be exact, but they got to be close, or your truck will look kind of wonky when it starts to flex. Now, once you get one of them, once you've shaved and shaved and shaved and got it to where it flips up from its mounting position, and the wing stops at just the right point so that it doesn't over center. Once you have one, it's really easy to duplicate it. I'm going to show you how to do that. So first, don't do this at home, kids. We're just going to drill a hole that probably isn't going to line up. Am I going the right way? I'm going the right way. So there is our 1/16th inch hole. Set that there. Where did that screw go? There he is. He's hiding. So here's how you're going to copy it. You're going to drill the big hole. Put the screw through the big hole on your good piece. Put the screw through the big hole on the new piece. I should have done that the other way. There we go. Then you're just going to take your razor blade or sandpaper or a Dremel tool or whatever you want, and you're just going to trim it out to be exactly the same shape, and it holds it in place. If you want, if you're going for the same thing, now, depending on how much drop you want, you can drill this hole in different places. I drilled mine as low as I possibly could because I wanted it to ride as low as possible for performance. If you don't like the look of that, or if you have bigger wheels and you actually need more lift, you just drill the hole higher up. Or you could just take the 3/64 bit and just drill holes periodically all the way down it so you have adjustment. But if you're OCD and you're worried, what if I need the position that's in the middle? Well, then just drill this hole and get this set up, put it on the rig, and make sure it's long enough with your shocks, whether you're using stock shocks or whatever you have. I'm going to make these ones exactly the same. So I'm just going to go ahead and drill this hole. Now my 3/64 bit does not hold in my drill, so I have to wrap tape around it. If you don't have what you need, you make it. This part can be kind of tricky. Don't drill into your finger. As if that needed to be said. Okay. And once that's done, we can get another extra screw. Come here. We can screw this one into here, and it will have to thread in through the small hole. But once we've threaded it into two of them, the job of copying becomes very easy, especially with snips like this, as long as we don't bend it. Actually, you know what? This might actually be better done with this. But you're just going to hold it down on like a cutting board or something and trim it out so that it's the same size. I have drilled my holes crooked. That was terrible. Okay, so I'm gonna start over, but you get the idea. This is how it's done. Then you just make sure the wing part is the top part on the axle, and then the shock mounts to this rounded part down here. And you too can have all of the suspension travel you want with stock shocks. Thank you for watching. Go out and enjoy an old path.